talk to you a little bit about sales tax. So I'm going to try to be brief. For the month of July, we collected $25.4 million. That amount was about 1.4 million more than what we collected a year ago in June. And thank you, Candace, for the visual. As you can see in that chart, June revenue was up 4.7% compared to the prior June. With that result, we continue to track roughly in line with what was in the 2025 budget. And I think more importantly, June was really about what we expected it would be. And we are also very much tracking to the revised number that Greg Hayes talked to all of you about in your one-on-ones that will go into the 2026 budget. And so just as a super quick refresher, Leeds came back with their forecast and essentially advised us to reduce the general fund projection. And the one we're going to be making a change to that, we have noticed something that was not in the Leeds forecast, just based on timing from the data Leeds had. They did not have any data related to, and I've talked to this committee about this, but starting in February, or exactly after we gave data to Leeds, we noted a large new taxpayer was operating up in North Aurora near DIA. And so we are making an adjustment to our projection based on that. And I will tell you in that regard, I went in earlier this week just to check in on that very taxpayer. And I can tell you that even through July, so not even the month we're talking about, but beyond the month we're talking about, that taxpayer continues to make large, consistent payments that we think merit an adjustment. So again, we're very much on track, I think, for the number that is likely to go into the 2026 budget. So everything looking good in that regard. And I was going to keep it that simple unless the committee has questions about the sales tax chart.
Great. Council members Coombs or Bergan, any questions?
Okay, so you said it's tracking, sorry. You said it's tracking to the revised number on the deficit that Greg Hayes gave us last month. So if revenues continue on this trajectory to be above last year's, then do you feel like by the end of the year we're going to still have the $20 million deficit? Or
yes.
Maybe that's a Greg Hayes question. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. The answer is yes. We've actually increased the sales tax projection to account for this money coming in all year long. So it's an additional $4.2 million that we put into 2026. But if you remember, we also lowered the auto use tax because auto use tax is coming in much worse. So they kind of cancel each other out. But all the ups and the downs kind of cancel each other out.
Maybe I don't remember correctly. I thought the auto use tax, there was just a delay, that it wasn't.
No,
really
it appears to not be a delay. And I'll give you a great example. The Leeds projection said that we were going to lose $800,000 by the end of the year. We've lost 1.6 million by May.
Oh.
So we're just on a different line, a different trajectory. So we've lowered that as well. And we actually talked to Leeds and said, we're thinking of doing this. They said, that's a good idea.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
So, you're welcome.
Council member Coombs, any questions?
None from me.
All right. Great. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Next up, Nancy Wishmeyer, 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Wishmeyer, the City Controller. And with us on the call is Marcy Ardan, and Marcy is a Managing Director at Forbes Mazars, our external audit firm. And Marcy's going to review with you some information regarding our 2024 financial report and the results of the 2024 audit. I just wanted to kind of provide a brief overview before she starts. So our 2024 audited financial statements and the single audit report for our federal grants have both been completed, and they're posted on the city's intranet. So you can go out there and take a look at those. And in your packet, you have the Forbes Mazars Audit Committee report. This report will summarize the financial statement audit, the single audit results, attached to that report are the schedule of past adjustments. And these are adjustments that we did not correct. And this is due to them being deemed immaterial to the financial statements. But I did want to point out that even though they're not material in dollar amount, it is required that you be aware that these adjustments were discussed between the auditors and management, and it was determined that we would not record them. And then also attached is the management representation letter. This outlines all of the representations that the city is making to the auditors. And then also attached is the single audit report of our federal grant funds that we expended during 2024. So just concerning the financial statements, we received an unmodified or clean audit opinion on the 2024 financial statements. And we were notified again this year that the city has received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is for the 2023 ACFR. So now we've received that award for the past 38 consecutive years. And then concerning the single audit of our federal grants, we also received an unmodified or clean audit opinion. And we did have 2 audit findings, and they're detailed in that packet. These are related to financial statement reporting and not to grant compliance. And there was 1 material weakness and 1 significant deficiency. So the city, though, I wanted to point out too, we are still considered a low risk auditee under the Uniform Grant Guidelines. So now I'll turn it over to Marcy, and she'll provide the auditor's perspective for you.
Thank you, Nancy. It's great to be with you all today. So starting on page 22 of the packet is our required communication letter to those charged with governance. There are standard communications that we're required to make to you as part of the audit process, and this is how we accomplish it, is through this letter. You'll see as you're reviewing the letter, if there's nothing that is required to be reported, we will state that fact. You'll see no matters are reportable. So I was just going to hit a couple of the highlights this year. Nancy did a great job of summarizing everything for me, so I'm going to try not to repeat what she said. But on page 22, we did issue, I do want to reemphasize, unmodified or clean opinions. That's the best level of opinion you can get. But I just want to point out that an audit is to provide reasonable rather than absolute assurance. So we do that in establishing scopes based on the audit opinion unit that we're being audited. We do not look at every single transaction. So just want to make that clear. On the next page, when we perform the uniform guidance audit, it also requires us to do an audit in accordance with government auditing standards. And so we do issue a report called the Internal Control over Financial Reporting on Compliance and Other Matters based on an audit of a financial statements performed in accordance with GAGIS. And this would relate to the financial statement findings that Nancy referred to. This report is found within the single audit report, and I'll go into that single audit report here in just a little while. We also do a uniform guidance, which is essentially the single audit of the federal grant compliance. And we issue opinions on each major program. We had 2 major programs. We had highway planning and we had the state, I'm going to call it the SLRF because it's the coronavirus relief funding. We also issue a report on internal control over compliance and on the schedule of expenditure of federal awards. One of the things they do want to point out is within the financial statements, there are component units, which are a legally separate entity that are reported in your financial report. We do not audit any of the discretely presented component units. We rely on other auditors. We communicate with them throughout the process. They provide their audit reports, and we place reliance on those auditors' opinions for the financial statements related to those entities. On the next page, the ACFR, or the financial statements, is a really big report, and we are not required to audit everything in that report. The The statistical and the other schedules are considered other information. So just so you're aware, we read that for consistency, but we do not express an opinion on it. If we were to find any inconsistencies between that information and the financial statements, we would ask management to revise it, and anything we did identify, management did revise. There were a couple of significant accounting policies adopted this year. The first one was GASB 100 accounting changes for error corrections. This one kind of requires special footnote disclosure. So if you look at footnote 20 in the financial statements, that really encompasses this standard. The other thing to note is there was a change in financial reporting entity within the financial statements this year, in that the gifts and grants fund is no longer reported as a major fund. It's a non-major fund, and this is just determined by a calculation, but it requires a movement of presentation. So you'll see there's a kind of a restatement line, but it's just because it's moving the classification from non-major or major to non-major. There was also an accounting standard to be adopted this year related to compensated absences. It doesn't really change what had previously been recorded. That all pretty much stayed the same. It added additional calculations for sick leave that you pay out during the year. So there was a minimal effect for the adoption of the standard, and there was a restatement of about 2.8 million associated with adopting the standard. I think the biggest thing you'll see is the classification between what's a current and non-current liability related to compensated absences had a big shift in the financials. On the next page, the financials are comprised, when their management is compiling the financials, there are management judgments and estimates in recording the financials. On here, under the second bolded section, are a list of what we consider the significant estimates for the city. We've reviewed these, tested them. We saw no bias in management's estimation process. Again, under the financial statement disclosures, I just refer you to the adoption of the accounting principles and the restatements, since those are new items this year. As part of the audit at the bottom of the page, there are instances where if we find an error, we do ask management to record that error. We had 3 audit adjustments that we proposed and management did record in the financial statements. There was some accounts receivable that were removed out of the city capital projects fund. We had to reclassify the bond proceeds from current investments to restricted investments in the water fund. And then we also needed to adjust the net investment and capital asset calculation for the new bond proceeds for the 2024 debt in the water fund. On the next page, it does, and Nancy previously mentioned that about the past adjustments. There are some that we proposed, but management chose not to record. Those are the waived entries, and you can find all those in attachment C. We had no disagreements with management. You can see the significant items that we discussed during the process, which included the implementation of the new standard, and then just various presentation items in the financial statements. And we did not have any difficulties encountered in performing the audit. On the next page, we are required to communicate any control deficiencies. So as Nancy communicated, there was a material weakness. There was also a significant deficiency. Those are detailed in the single audit report. And on the next page, we also had one deficiency in internal control related to fund revenue recognition, in the fact that not everything was being deferred properly in the governmental fund financial statements if it wasn't in the city's available period. So those were our deficiencies. We also had a couple of other matters that we communicated orally. There were a couple of IT related items in that, and there was also something regarding CFA preparation of the schedule of expenditure of federal awards. with that, I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions on our letter.
So one, and maybe you can just point me to it. The GASB 101, you said it was in footnote 20, but I don't see that. What page is that on where it's described? Just trying to get a sense of what that is.
Shoot. It was footnote 20. It was also described in footnote 19. But essentially what it is like compensated absences, just to summarize it for you, it's like your accrued vacation and your accrued sick leave. What the big change was in previous years, governments only considered what you were going to pay out if someone left.
Okay.
During the year. And so that didn't encompass the fact that other employees are still being paid sick leave. So they were thinking there was a gap in that liability of what you really owe on like people taking sick leave during the year. Yeah. So it really required a usage analysis and an estimate of out of their sick leave balance, how much should be accrued back. So that's really what was added. So it added to what was already required to be recorded.
Got it. Okay.
Does that make more sense? But
yeah, no, it does.
It's described in footnote 19 and 20.
Okay.
And then you would see the balances of it in the long-term liability footnote, which I believe, I want to say footnote 8, but I'm scrolling real quick. It's just a really long report.
Yeah, for sure. And then just so it's kind of on the record, maybe could you talk a little bit about the two deficiencies that you noted kind of at the end of your presentation?
Yeah, I was going to go into the single audit report and kind of cover those.
Okay, great.
I just wanted to take a pause in case we had any questions on this information so far.
Councilmember Coombs or Bergan, any questions?
Mine is on the single audit. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, I'll wait until this next one. Thank you.
All right.
So if you don't mind going to PDF page 30. I'm trying to get you the number. I wrote them down. 7. I just wanted to cover the single audit is the federal expenditures, and this is hard to see, but there were $68.5 million of expenditures on the schedule of expenditure federal awards. I did want to point out you had 2 really large programs that comprised the majority of these expenditures. It was the state and local government, the coronavirus relief funds, and then the national infrastructure, the RAISE program for the I-70 and Piccadilly area. And they were at 44.6 and 11.4 million. And then if I could get you to go please to page 44. This is the one schedule I like to look at. It's a quick summary schedule. This is in essentially the snapshot of our audit. So you can see on the financial statements, we had unmodified opinions. We say we had material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. On the federal awards, we had no items to be reported, and you can see the major federal programs that were audited. And then on the next page, this has our...
Is it possible to make it larger? I couldn't even see that last chart.
There you go.
You either miss some of it or it's large enough, though. Should I scroll through it slowly?
Sure. I can summarize a lot of it, but so this first finding 24-001 is considered the material weakness. And it was considered a material weakness for the utility fund because there were several deficiencies that when looked at on a combined basis, we felt raised to the level of a material weakness. So on one instance, there was the classification of investments. So the city issued bonds in late December those should be, any bond proceeds should be reported as a restricted investment, and they were not. So we requested they be moved. That was one of the adjusting journal entries. In addition, on those bond proceeds, those proceeds have to essentially reduce the net position, net investment and capital asset component, and they had been excluded from the calculation. So there were two issues related to the bond proceeds or the issuance of the debt. The third issue, if you want to scroll down just a little bit to show us C and D, there is, when developers develop entities, they contribute infrastructure to the water and wastewater funds. And we identified some errors in the valuation of those where we couldn't get the value to agree to the underlying support. So that resulted in an error in the infrastructure being overstated in the water fund and understated in the wastewater fund. The last item was we identified that charges for services revenues were overstated in 2024 because there was an error in the 2023 accruals, and there were some duplicative billings recorded in the current year. So altogether, we felt that that raised to the level of a material weakness. A lot of the cause on the next page, we'll see that you can see that a lot of this resulted from changes in systems, changes in processes. And so some of that is just utilizing new systems and developing controls around those systems. Just takes a little bit of time. And management does have a corrective action plan. I don't know, Nancy, were you planning on sharing that with them as well? Or was that included? I didn't see it.
If it's not included, we'll send it. I'll double check and see if it's in the packet.
Okay. And then the second finding that we had was considered, if you would move to the next page, was considered a significant deficiency. And this one was identified real late in the process. A liability of $2.7 million was not recorded related to a intergovernmental agreement to rebate specific or specified taxes. And so this is included on the past adjustment schedule. You can see our recommendation on the screen. I believe it was just the city was not aware that that development had started and they should be repaying the taxes. Any questions on the findings?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, and maybe this is a question for Nancy, but I mean, I assume the city doesn't disagree with these findings and that we've made some changes or implementations to address these?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, we do agree. Many of these items too, they may have been something that we had already been in the process of doing corrections on in 2025. But to Marcy's point, a lot of these things were items that if we had known, we would have been recording them as liabilities or deferred items or, some kind of an accrual in 2024. And so those are some of the things that we missed, is
Great.
Getting them backdated.
Yep, got it.
But you're
Okay.
right. Different processes. We've got now different ways that we'll need to go about looking at things and auditing, doing our own pre-audit, if you will, in the fall before the auditors come out, even before they come out for their prelim work. But yes, we will be updating processes to help us catch some of these things earlier.
Awesome. Council members, Bergan or Coombs, any questions?
Just on, you said that the grants were primarily either the state and local, so I guess the ARPA dollars, and then you said raise for transportation.
Correct.
On the ARPA, do you audit? You probably don't audit the nonprofit ARPA dollars that went out, right?
We audit the payments the city made, but we don't go down to the level of how the nonprofits spent that.
Okay.
Is that's your question? Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I took a pretty in-depth look at one of the nonprofits and their receipts, and the receipts were questionable to me, but they were, I guess, they were given to the city, and the city obviously reported those. So it's probably more not an audit for you. It's more, I guess, in the future for us to maybe tighten up some processes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs.
No, I think it's clear from Nancy's comments. I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
The last page I'd want to point out is page 49. There was a compliance finding last year related to the state and local fiscal recovery funds. And we deemed that had been corrected during this year's testing. So that ends on a positive note, my presentation.
Great. Thanks, Marcy. Councilmember Coombs or Bergan, any final questions?
I just want to say congratulations on a clean audit.
Thank you.
Yep, I would echo that.
Nothing further.
Yep, I would echo that too. I mean, I think all are aware how good job our management and our finance staff do in running the city. And so, yeah, I think this reflects that. Great job, everybody. And Marcy, appreciate your work and your presentation today.
Yes, thank you. And I'd just like to thank Nancy and her team. I know they have a lot going on, so the audit added a lot to their plates as well. So just wanted to thank them for getting us everything we needed.
Definitely. All right. Next up, Richard Goggins, proposed 2026 changes to service fees.
Hello, everyone. Richard Goggins, Budget Office. So as part of the annual budget process, each department reviews their service fees to determine which fees may require adjustments or elimination. So these fees are assumed in the annual budget for next year. And the 2026 service fee review process continues the use of indexing. And so this was directed by council during and implemented during the 2007 service fee review process. So for 2026, fees are indexed using a 4.3% inflation factor, and this is derived from the Employment Cost Index for state and local government compensation. And this is a report that's put out by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So the majority of fees this year were indexed. There are 4 bullets that explain when fees were below this index, and 5 bullets explaining when changes were greater than the index. There's an additional 8 bullets explaining when fees were moved between departments, added, or eliminated. And impact fees are also included, and each has their own index, and this can be found on the last page of the packet, which is page 63. Additionally, the pros recreation fee changes that were discussed in the April 12th workshop are also included in the fee changes. And then finally, this is just information only to get your feedback. It doesn't require a vote, and it doesn't need to go to a formal council meeting, but it will be part of the Saturday budget workshop in October. So departments are available if you have any questions.
Council members Coombs or Bergan, any questions?
I have a couple.
Okay.
One of the fee changes was the plan revision fee for $127 per sheet. But then on another page, it had another plan revision for $170 per hour for a 2-hour minimum. And I guess it was removed, but then put back due to increased inspections. But it's a bit confusing with the 2 different revision fees.
Hey, Councilmember Bergan, this is Jacob Cox, Director of Development Services. So the $127 fee is related to the civil plan fees for revisions. And so we do see quite a bit of those, and that's been standard in our fees. The other one that was re-added is actually related to building permit fees. So the $170 for a 2-hour minimum. So we were seeing we've actually not charge for those from a policy customer service standpoint. In talking with the team about cost recovery aspects of the building plan revisions, we were seeing a lot of those kind of bogged down staff time. And so we instituted what we saw was a pretty nominal fee at that $170 for a 2-hour minimum. We think that's going to accomplish most of the revisions we're seeing on the building side at that pretty nominal rate, but 2 different fees there for civil versus building.
Well, then related to that, in the development services, it has inspection fees that ratchet up 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, up to the 10th inspection, and they get quite high. Is that a real problem?
Well, we have not, similarly, we have not implemented those. We've had those historically in the budget books in the past. We've not actually charged those over the years. We wanted that to be consistent with where the public improvements inspections have been. So we've had the same chart for PI inspection. Now that we've consolidated, we just wanted to have the same charts for each group from building to PI. I would not anticipate we have many builders that would hit those. We have seen a couple where they're going 4 or 5, but from a cost recovery standpoint, we've not historically actually charged to go out and do re-inspections. In the budget book for many years now, it's been free for the first 2 inspections, and then it's pretty nominal for the 3rd, 4th, 5th. If quite frankly, if a builder is going 5 or 6 re-inspections without correcting it, they've got some bigger issues than that. But but if we implement this, we would be going out and chatting with the building community to make sure that that's not going to cause any issues, for example, with the HBA.
Okay, and yeah, that was going to be my follow-up, is like, if they're getting into that situation, that hopefully we would communicate with them and see if there's a problem to be solved. And then I have a question on the tournament fees, and there was no increase. Is there anybody from pros? Or anybody
yes,
know?
Tom Tully, pros business services manager. So we on the tournament fees, those are negotiated with each group as they come in, and the range was rather large, so it gives us a lot of versatility in there.
Okay, so that's why. So it's they may be increased, but it's in that range.
They will be increased.
Okay, okay. Then I have another question. Let's see. It's on, it was number 1022, and it was on the average land value per acre for pros dedication. Can anybody explain what that really was?
So yes, this is a fee, excuse me. This is a fee that we had in our design manual, and that we wanted to formalize as part of this process. Rather, we didn't get a lot of them, so we would have people call and have conversations, but this kind of formalizes a fee we've been charging historically.
But they're paying it for a dedication of open space? What I guess I was not clear.
So this was, so the fee up above is like, sorry.
Is this fee in lieu?
The fee up above is for transit area or infill, and this is non-transit area or infill. I'm not 100% certain on that. That's the designation that we have, but what that actually means, I would have to I would have to look at a little closer and get back to you.
Okay.
Yes, Councilmember Bergan, this is Brian Green, Director, Pros. That fee is the fee in lieu of dedication for open space.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yes,
that's
all. So I had a couple of questions on the new fees, room rental fee for the People's Building. It says 0 to 5,000, and I'm just curious, like, is that, I guess maybe it's not just a room, like, is it the performance area that we would charge 5,000 for? I just want to understand that.
Hi there, Matt Kipp, Manager of Business Services for Library and Cultural Services. That would be generally, most rentals are going to be the theater space there, but it could also be for the entire building. So it really depends on the event. That range is just to give us the flexibility that we need to meet very varying circumstances.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. I just, I was looking at the room rentals for like other rooms that we have available, and they're, $20 or $30, and so I just wanted to ask about that. And then my other question is on golf course greens fees. Have we seen any impact on, I guess, ability to fill our tee times just as rates continue to go up, or not really? Are we still having full tee sheets?
Councilmember Gardner.
I would
this
tell
is
you demand
Brian
is
Green,
very high
Director
for
of-
golf.
Councilmember Gardner, this is Brian Green, Director. We're currently still operating 94 to 97% during the peak times of our tee sheets. We have not seen the drop off at all. We're actually increase in demand, if anything.
Got it. Yeah, I tried to get a tee time last Saturday at Murphy Creek and couldn't unless I wanted to play at 6 o'clock at night. So I assume that was the answer, but I just wanted to ask about it. Councilmember Coombs, any questions on this?
No, I think you guys covered it all. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, please go ahead.
It's to your question, Councilmember Gardner, on the room rentals. Why is there a 0, like 0 to whatever? Like, who gets no, not charged at all?
I suppose there's circumstances where we might provide the rental for free if we were partnering with an organization. I think that's probably going to be a rare instance. In most cases, we are going to be charging. So again, I think that was just really to provide a high level of flexibility for varying situations.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thanks for the presentation.
Great, thank you.
Next up, Jen Lorenzen, IGA with Community College of Aurora for discounted tuition rates.
Yeah, good afternoon, committee members. I'm Jen Lorenzen, Deputy Director of Human Resources, and I'm here today to request support of an IGA with the Community College of Aurora. The city offers a continuing education program designed to support employees in their pursuit of higher education and professional development, fostering a culture of continuous learning within the organization. Assisting us in this pursuit are partnerships with various educational institutions who provide discounted tuition rates to city employees. Human Resources is in the process of renewing our agreement with the Community College of Aurora, CCA, to continue offering discounted tuition rates to our employees. With CCA being an institution under the Department of Higher Education, which falls under the state of Colorado, this agreement is an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the state, which requires a resolution and approval from City Council. Included in your agenda packet is a copy of the proposed agreement as well as the resolution. I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you may have, but I'm here to ask if the committee supports the IGA with the Community College of Aurora for discounted tuition rates for employees and moving this IGA forward to a regular council meeting.
Great, thank you. Council members Bergan and Coombs, any questions, and are you okay moving this forward?
I'm good moving it forward.
I'm good as well.
Me too. Thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's see. Next up, Michelle Crawford, internal audit update for court administration.
Good afternoon. As requested, I'm going to go over a couple of updates from the court administration audit. Candace, if you scroll down to the next slide. So implemented in the last 30 days is the policies and procedures for detention and case management, which addresses cashing checks and card tampering as well. Additionally, it's going to be listed on outstanding, but once they finalize those policies about a week and a half ago, they have begun training as well. So we're in the process of closing that one out as well. If you can go to the next outstanding, please. So still outstanding is the vending machine vendor management agreement and the vending machine finding, and they're in process on that. They've provided me with a contract to review late this week. And additionally, the systems reports and system controls are still outstanding, and I'll allow courts to give any detailed updates they have on those items.
Thank you. Candace Atkinson, Court Administrator. We are working to install Clover devices, which would go into the teller and then from the teller into our system, which will alleviate some of the concerns with the auditor. And we are also actively trying to find somebody to come in and audit our financial system. And I think, we've implemented several policies that are related to the closeout. And I think also a lot of the reports that were requested were in our system, but they were not in a PDF format. So our IT person, Kyle, is actively working and has most of them in a PDF format that can be requested on demand. And he's available if you have any questions.
All right. Council members Coombs or Bergan, any questions?
Just one on the system control. It says discussions are being planned and cost is a factor. Do you have any like have you reached out to hire a consultant or to look at that system?
I've reached out to 4 consultants and haven't received any information back from them. So we are trying to work with a consultant that did another audit on our security system. So we're actively trying to find somebody, but have not been able to yet.
Okay. Do we have to do an RFP to do that, or is you just have the discretion based on maybe the lower amount of money to do that study?
It depends on the amount of what they would charge us. I have no idea what that would be since I've never done a financial audit into a system like this. So as long as it's at a reasonable amount, we can go ahead and move forward without that.
Is there would you be able to just like contact the Denver court and find out, because they have a third party system that integrates everything. I was just wondering if maybe you could have a discussion with them about their system and what it cost.
To have it audited? Is that?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Yes, I can do that. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm not sure that they've ever gone through an audit, but I will reach out and see if I can get that information.
Just an idea. Okay. Thank you.
Council member Coombs.
So I just wanted to confirm, it sounds like you are contracting with an external audit firm for the financial systems.
That's what we're trying to do, and we're actively working to try to find somebody.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question on system report. So it says per court administration, the city is implementing new financial system. So can we talk about that a little bit further? Like, what is the holdup with what the cities do? Like, what is the interplay between the two? Just so I understand that better.
Well, we just recently switched over, so we're working, and Kyle might be able to elaborate a little bit more, but we're working with Wells Fargo to get the devices and to work on that, and it's just taking some time. And I don't know, Kyle, do you have anything you'd want to add?
Yeah, we've reached out to Wells Fargo with the cashiers group to look at some new devices. We were hoping to implement possibly some kiosks and some more just some more ways for people to do payments. And in doing so, we would further we'd have better financial controls, and we'd have better receiving, better audit trails, like more robust cash handling in general by implementing this. Right now, there's not. That whole process hasn't really been looked at for a long time. It was mostly kind of all manual. And so, yeah, I'm working with all the appropriate groups to try and get something set up and hopefully get this all streamlined.
So, okay, I understand that part, but what is the relation of that to the city implementing new financial system?
I think that this note is probably talking about something we were talking about last month, which was The city just switched over the Workday over to Workday Finance, and part of that was we've integrated our system into Teller, and Teller is integrated into the Workday system. So that's probably related to that, and that's all up and running, and that went well. We are integrated.
Okay. I don't have any. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Is work, since it's integrated now with Workday, does Workday provide a good solution for reports?
Teller in the middle does provide a lot of the reports that we're looking for. And so between a combination of things that I can provide from our system and things that come from Teller and Workday, we probably can cover pretty much everything that would need to be done. But we'll work with audit to make sure everything's lined up for that.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Anything else on this item?
Nope.
All right. Appreciate the update. Thank you. Let's see. I think that's the last item on our agenda. Next month we are scheduled for September 4th. Any conflicts with that? All right. Well, we will see everybody next month. Have a good week.
Thank you.